Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning from wherever you are. And thank you for joining this amazing webinar that we have planned for the next 1 hour or so. My name is Rohan Jaivira. I look after the marketing and alliances for John Keel's IT, regional solutions, professional services, and a consultancy company headquartered out of Sri Lanka. Today, we have this amazing set of panelists who have joined us. And I believe that we are already seeing about 100, close to about 100 people who have participated. Thank you for taking the time and joining us. And we want to make sure that this webinar is extremely valuable and provides amazing insights for you. And to start the proceedings, I would just like to give you the context of it. I think we are at the cusp of this industrial 4.0 where there is a lot of conversations about automation, and there's always this conversation that is really relevant that UiPath is having around the world about their practice in RPA. And to start off this webinar, I would like to invite Lenore, who is the country sales director of UiPath South Africa, to speak and present some of her thoughts about this automation journey that the world is seeing. And I must also tell you, she also represents, correct me if I'm wrong, Lenore, the fastest growing software company in the history of the last quarter in the world. Not bad at all. Lenore, I have now put you live, and I think you can share the slides with me and we can take your presentation as the first step. Over to you.
Excellent. Well, welcome everybody virtually. It's wonderful to have such a large virtual audience, and I must admit, very different for me. I'm used to standing on stage and being able to connect eye to eye with everyone in the audience. So I will imagine how wonderful, how beautiful, and how young you all are, very much like myself, but unfortunately you are seeing me on camera. So just to check, I assume that you're able to see my presentation?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are able to see that.
Fantastic. Yeah. So a little bit about my background. I've been in the IT industry for 35 years, and yes, thank you for that introduction about UiPath being the fastest growing enterprise software company in history. I thought I'd seen everything with the growth of IT over my career, but I have never seen something quite as meteoric, and hence we call ourselves the rocket ship, as I've seen with this particular technology. So it's kind of just very much time to automate. And why do we say that? I'm going to use one example. And this example is an employee onboarding example. And I'm sure many of us can relate to it when you join a large enterprise. How complex it is in getting up and running. The good old days of a handshake and you hired and you find your office, your desk, your drawer, and your analysis paper and pencil, and you start working along behind. There are now multiple systems, there's access that you need to get, and in fact, whether it's an employee onboarding situation or a customer onboarding situation, having a first experience with a supplier, it's the same thing. There are multiple systems. And in fact, yourself, I'm sure when you finish at the end of the day and you try and close down your laptop, you discover that in fact, you've got so many windows open, it probably takes you a good couple of minutes to shut all those applications down. And Gartner actually coined an incredible phrase for that. They call it the patchwork quilt. And in fact, we've had so much technology to make us efficient that we've now got so much technology that we've become inefficient. And in reality, we are now humans doing as opposed to humans being. And this is why automation is so critical right now, to be able to automate all of these mundane, complex, multiple systems that we need to navigate on a day-to-day basis. So in fact, this gentleman now that has joined an organization, he should actually be spending his day, as we're doing today, in human-to-human interaction, getting to know his colleagues, and in the background, we should have an automated process or your friendly robot going and doing all of the activity behind the scene. Why should he be putting his name in 10 times into 10 different systems and setting up his password? It should all just happen automatically, that when he comes out of his introduction session, he's onboarded. So, and I think that's really what COVID has done. COVID has taught us that in fact we can shift, and we can shift very quickly as humans. And I don't know about you, but there's a lot that I look at in my day that I do that is mundane and repetitive and is not applying my mind effectively. So we have a phrase, and that is, if you hate it, automate it. And that's really what you should be looking at in your organization. So what are the drivers for automation? Where are we seeing the biggest impact? And it's mainly in these 4 areas. I already shared with you a very simple example of an employee being onboarded, but onboarding and offboarding when you've got huge numbers of employees. I mean, an example we have here was one of the biggest online retailers who had to take on 100,000 new hires in 1 month for COVID. And if we didn't have automation in place, it would have been impossible. The same thing from a customer experience point of view. I don't know, but I honestly believe that contact center people have the toughest job on the planet. And in fact, to get the right interaction with a customer, they need all the data available. And again, why isn't that automated to provide that experience? Risk and compliance, sadly, has become a very big issue. Everything from fraud to keeping within the regulatory requirements, and that is usually a highly mundane type of task and ideal for an automated environment. And the blue one is the one that I like, and that's kind of talking about the art of the possible. What are the things that you can do in your business today if you had, let's say, 10 experts that could work as of tomorrow 24/7 with absolute perfection and 100% accuracy? What are the new things that you could do in your business to accelerate growth? And that's where we're starting to see some of the really exciting use cases come out of automation. So up until now, we've been talking about RPA, and Gartner for 2020 priorities and strategic trends has now coined the phrase hyper-automation. We're kind of moving now from automating one single process to having a look at how do you automate across the entire enterprise and bring together and culminate all the systems and information that you have across the organization, and bring in things like machine learning, artificial intelligence in reality and in perpetuity to operate within your business to drive best value. And do you really understand how your processes are working in the organization so that you're getting the best value out of the way your organization operates from its systems, but also importantly, getting the best value from the brain's trust of your employees, or are they just actually doing stuff, as I call it? So to automate anything, you need to automate almost everything and look at everything that can be automated, but also bringing together solutions. So many organizations have got organ solutions, as I call, which is like the organs of the body. You've got the heart and the lungs and the liver, which is your ERP and your CRM systems and your HR systems, etc. But very little happens in business in one of those systems in isolation. So you want to bring the data together from all of those systems and then also apply some intelligence through your artificial intelligence engines that you might have, and use machine learning so that you can understand behaviors from a customer perspective, from an employee performance perspective, or whatever it might be, and to make this seamless across the organization and get value of all of the tools. So this flywheel effectively is really how you need to analyze what you need to automate. And we can see from some of the quotes that we are seeing huge acceleration in the businesses that are driving growth, particularly in these times, and where they're seeing the efficiencies being driven by automation. So to support this requirement, UiPath has now evolved from pure process RPA into a hyper-automation platform, which we offer together with our wonderful partners, and it's an absolute privilege for us to be jointly here with our partners in Metro File Vision and JKIT, who've got the expertise in delivering these solutions. And the platform that we offer enables organizations to discover the automation opportunities, how to quickly build those opportunities into effective processes that you can manage across the organization and run them in an effective way, whilst also still engaging with the employees, because that is important, is the human employee engagement, and then to measure the success of that. And that is delivered through our partners like we have online today, as well as providing education openly across the globe through our academy so that everybody can learn. I relate back to when I learned a spreadsheet. Yes, I know that gives my age away, but we had to go and learn how to use a spreadsheet. Today, I think there's hardly a business person who can operate without a spreadsheet. And this is really where we're seeing automation going, that is going to be prevalent to every one of us as a spreadsheet is prevalent in the way that we operate. So that is why your user is so important, because you need to engage everyone in the organization, from a business user to somebody who's departmentally technically savvy and wants to engage in automations, to your typical IT developer who wants to really develop the bells and the whistles and bring in the AI and the ML, but also your analysts and people who understand your processes. So this is an all-in engagement. And if you can bring in broader employee engagement together with the technology and the innovation into your business, that's where you start seeing moving towards hyper-automation. So this is what we see in the future. We see in the future that you'll be in a hybrid of environments where you'll have human-to-human interaction like we have today, right through to the extreme where you will have your processes running automatically in the background. And then you'll have a hybrid of the interaction between human and processes, like a contact center, which is a really good example, to be able to provide those efficiencies and drive the value out of the investments of the current systems that you have. So ultimately, we see a robot for every person. We will all work with our robots on our laptops. We will decide the work we want to do, the fun, human engagement, innovative, creative type work, and let the robot go and do the mundane, repetitive, boring work that needs to just get done on a day-to-day basis. So that's where we see automation going, where automation is, where it's going, and we're really excited to be going down this path with our partners and yourselves, and looking forward to some further debate on the subject later on in the discussion. Over to you.
Thank you, Leonora, so much. I was speaking for a moment.
Thank you, Leonora, so much. I was speaking for a moment.
And one of the things that was picked up, and I'm going to copy this, is if you hate it, automate it. And I think that was a really, really good line. I've loved it. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for everyone who's joining us from anywhere in the world. I think primarily our audience will be from South Africa. You have joined the webinar on the topic around automation. You just heard Lenore Keringen. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I apologize if I'm not doing so well. And country sales director, UiPath South Africa, building her case around the reasons as to why you might want to think about automation and the future of it, and being probably the fastest growing software company by far in IT industry for what we have known so far. Next up, a gentleman who basically I probably think that there's absolutely no need of an introduction. Kuzai, you are here. Again, I apologize if I'm not saying the name properly, just little getting used to the names. Managing Director of Metrofile Vision. Thank you so much for being with us as a panelist. Really, really appreciate, all three panelists of yours, all three panelists of ours, but for you to take the time and joining. I would just like to kind of hand over the next 10 to 12 minutes over to you for you to just speak a little bit about how you see automation and the future from your perspective. Over to you.
Thanks, Rohan. I hope you can see my slide on the screen.
It's really, really nicely done, and it's actually available and everybody can see it now. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. So welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to be joining this discussion. Actually, I think, you know, one of the sort of upsides of this format of conversation is that it's almost like we are sitting across each other in a room and having a private conversation one-to-one. So hopefully this engagement will feel like that to everyone, and that we can really come away with some ideas on what to do with our businesses, where we are going, how the world is changing around us. So Leonor, thank you so much for that introduction. I think you've just made my life so much easier in terms of just adding some more comments around that. So our parent company, Metrofile, has been in business for close to almost 40 years now. And really, I think one of the key things that we've done is to help our customers solve problems that are related to their business processes, particularly in the area of documents and records management. So, and as you know, whether you are in the physical or digital world, records and documents are the lifeblood of business. So as such, records and documents will continue to be critical for everyone out there who wants to do business, going forward. So Metrofile Vision is a division of Metrofile that is really focusing on the digital side of business process management and optimization. So our approach is that we engage with our customers in optimizing their processes. I'm sorry, my slide is not moving, so I'll just go back to. So our approach is that we have a collaborative approach. So Leonor has given you a very detailed or a very interesting perspective around the technology of RPA. We help you to apply that technology in your business processes. So essentially, our partnership with JKIT is designed to help you to say, how do we take this world of RPA into your business? How do we make it real for you? How do we work with you to make sure that it can bring value to you? So we are totally aligned to your KPIs as a business. So we know that for instance, in the current scenario we are in, everyone is thinking about how do I cut costs? I think globally we've seen a large number of people being laid off from their jobs simply because businesses faced a serious challenge as this pandemic has affected everyone. But I think if we are to be honest, the digital sort of movement started a long time ago. The pandemic just pushed us over the edge in terms of us facing the reality of the era that we are living in. However, I think the pandemic also kind of brought in some shock factors. So, and those shock factors really require us to act now in order for us to retain our businesses, in order for us to sustain our businesses and over the long term. Some of the things that I'm highlighting here in terms of how we look at what are the outcomes of optimization of processes, Leonor has already covered in the opening presentation. But really, we are totally aligned with the objectives of UiPath in terms of how do we actually help our customers even survive beyond this particular period that we are facing. So we kind of look at it in two different or two separate ways. One of them is, again, to align to what Leonor was saying, we are now looking at just beyond a single process. How do we help to create what we call digital business platforms that can help a customer across several functions to fulfill a specific need? And then in some cases, we look at specific processes. I'll give you some examples as we move along. So when we look at specific processes, some of our customers are saying, you know what, I have specific challenges that I need to address right now, because right now with this pandemic and the lockdown and the social distancing needs and the real need for us to move away from paper-based processes, I need you guys to help me to automate specific areas of my business. So we've seen customers approach us to say, let's look at our accounts payable processes and automate those. Some customers are asking us to assist them with HR processes. For an example, we have customers that are asking us to assist with the recruitment processes. as you can imagine, if a customer has a large number of employees that they recruit on a regular basis, they need to automate that process. Otherwise, they're going to spend a large amount of their time trying to optimize that process in the physical space. On the other hand, we've worked with some of our customers and our partners to create entire platforms that actually take out the business process from the customer's direct operation to us, so that we can help them to take out those costs and make those processes more efficient. So for us, this is a very exciting time to be talking to you about the possibilities in your own business. And I think in a lot of cases, what you really need as you look at the current challenges is to say, how can I work with partners that are right there with me, at the core face, so to speak, that can actually, take a very practical approach that can help me to unpack the possibilities for this particular RPA or hyper automation, as Leonor put it. How can I unpack it in a way that makes sense for me as a business? So we help you to bring it home. And our partnership with JKIT is really anchored around the same principles. We complement each other in terms of what they do and what we do. And particularly, we have a lot of experience in the South African market and the broader rest of Africa market, which means the market outside of South Africa. So we see that because of that linkage and long-term relationship that we've had with our customers, it makes it relatively easier for us to contextualize where the needs are and how those problems can be specifically addressed. So I think really the important thing is that we make ourselves available to you. Again, we are here to make sure that the context, the application, the value is put within the context of your business. So with that, I'm going to hand over to our colleagues from JKIT to continue with the presentation.
Kudzai, thank you so much. I think we ran into a bit of a issue with the PowerPoints, but nevertheless, I think we got it covered. And there had been a question from the public. We have about 110 people attending this session. Thank you so much again for joining. And one of the things you have asked us is about whether these slides and everything will be available. The recording will be available in time to come, maybe in probably about 2 days or tomorrow, most likely. So we'll give you the details on that. But at the same time, for everyone who's watching, I just wanted to leave you the remark that there is a chat option available on the side. Any questions you want to ask from any of the panelists, please feel free to write it and leave it on the chat box, so that we are able to get back to you, and you can just say, I want to ask a question from Leno, I want to ask from Kudzai, I want to ask from Dilini, etc. So it's been a really fascinating kind of 2 presentations from Leno and Kudzai. Thank you so much. And today, now I would just like to invite Dilini. She is the Chief Operating Officer of John Keells IT Software Solutions and Services, and she has quite a lot of experience in having deployed UiPath automation solutions, RPA solutions in the region and in Sri Lanka and in Middle East as well. So Dilini, over to you. Can you hear me? Or I think for some reason I was worried that whether the picture was frozen. These things can happen because we are connecting from probably 2 different continents. I mean, we sometimes take it for granted the technology that probably have gone in to make this happen. Thank you, Microsoft Teams, for it. Dilini, would you like to take over your presentation?
Thank you, Rohan.
Yeah, pleasure.
Just let me know if you can see my presentation.
So while Dilini's slides come up, one last thing is that immediately after Dilini's presentation, there will be a quick demo of some use cases, and we will be opening up for our panelists for Q&A, where we will be actually asking very specific questions from them about the practice and how they really see this automation taking us in this year, pandemic era, and even most likely next year and the year after. So stay tuned for the answers for that. Again, leave your questions. Dilini, over to you. You are live now.
Thank you, Rohan. So thank you so much for joining the presentation and for joining the webinar. So just to start off with, I would like to, Leno and Kudzai just covered most of the stuff on the presentation, so that I will skim through those areas. But on the terms of, like, I will give you an introduction of John Kilsite, and then into the practice that we have and the use cases, and also how you can work with us to unleash your potential on RPA. So that is what I would be talking on. So basically, to start off my presentation, I would like to give a highlight on who we are. And John Kearns Holdings is the biggest diversified conglomerate in Sri Lanka with a history of 150 years. And we are in 7 industry verticals, having 15,000 employees, and currently most respected corporate entity for 15 plus years in a row. So John Kearns IT is a subsidiary of John Kearns Holdings, and we have 20 years have been operating 20 years globally, with strong presence and offices in Sri Lanka, in the Middle East, and in the UAE. And also, like, we have handled multiple enterprise projects, and we have helped clients to automate their journey and ensure that they get a higher ROI. So basically, from the present standpoint of view, we are in 4+ continents, 15 countries, and nearly working with about 20+ partners. This is referrals. And then taking you to accolades that we have, and just focusing on, besides the others, I'm focusing on the Partner Excellence Award that we had very recently. We were identified as a Sri Lankan Partner of the Year, and also that we are a managed service partner globally for UiPath. So in order to start my conversation, John Kearns IT has a mandate on digital transformation. So that is a value proposition for our clients. So we start, Kudzai mentioned how the system of records, implementation of system of records. So it can be on implementing our ERPs, NHCMs, and CRMs. So that is where the companies start in the digital journey. That's the first step. So thereafter, like, we move on to the system of intelligence, where we moved LOB applications, HCMs into the cloud, right? So the cloud journey, so that enabling people to access it from anywhere in the world and be able to leverage on different technologies that is available in the platform. So as John Kearns IT, what we do is we are a SAP partner, a gold partner, and we provide services on implementation and licenses of SAP solutions. And also when we go into the transform, we also do cloud, which is with Microsoft Azure, and we have RPA, and we develop platforms, and so on and so forth. Then we go into system of engagement. This is the area where we make sure that the organizations that engage with us are able to identify the personas that they are dealing with, so that there is, like, people look at the personas in a way and create their journeys in a simplified manner. And we are able, with analytics, to be able to push personalized data. Now, if you take a retail store, right, you want your customers to keep coming to the store, or you want them to purchase online. So how do you make that journey successful for them, and so that they will see the benefit of engaging in that same store? So that is what we are talking about when we are talking about big data and mobility and AI. Then when we also help organizations on the systems of innovation, which is open data and open APIs, which helps us to integrate with other systems and leverage on the data. So this is our ideation framework, where we start a discussion with our clients, where we understand and empathize, and understand the vision, empathize, and then look at the needs that they have. Then we go into defining stage, where we identify the value drivers, industry trends, organization trends, and desirability and viability, and then going to looking at the benchmarks and assessing, and then being able to come up with a strategy for them in digital transformation. So basically our RPA experience in the industry verticals, like we started our journey in 2017 with the BPO industry. Thereafter, we have progressed into diverse verticals in terms of retail, manufacturing, BPO, banking, telecom, travel, insurance, customs, and airlines. And these are our strategic partner ecosystem. We work with Microsoft, UiPath, and SAP. We represent them, our principals in the regions that we work. And we are a competent licensing and services partner of UiPath, and we provide services on-site and off-site. So basically, in terms of what is a robot and where it can be used, all that Leno just covered it on her slides. So I just skip this, and also I would like to say with RPA that you're able to integrate to multiple environments, right? Multiple backend. So it can be cognitive services, it can be my SQL server, or it can be Office applications, and so on. So RPA, if I'm to talk about our RPA expertise, we have certified experienced solution team of architects, infrastructure engineers, developers, business analysts, trainers, and so on. And also we have experience in consultation, process assessment, implementation, project management, and so on. So these are some of the highlights of processes that we have automated. We have automated processes such as sales order processing, account creation, data migration, payroll processes, client creation, debt moratorium, invoice processing, bank reconciliation, and likewise. Let me take you through one of the common use cases, that is the account payable process, right? And the process starts with where we receive the invoices in a mail, and we extract the data from these invoices, and then after that we verify the data that is extracted, right? So we have used UiPath document API, understanding API, which helps you to give a confidence level, and then based on the confidence level, if the confidence level is high, you can just cause the process to flow. But if there is an low confidence level in the extraction, then you can also get somebody to have a look at it and correct the data. So we send it after that for approvals. So there can be multiple sets of approvals required. So we take it through those approval levels, and then we load those data into data store. And then thereafter, we update the accounting system. So basically, this helps us to have a fast account reconciliation and removal of errors and better compliance. So we have, in order to, when we are doing this process, we have used Outlook, we have used internal systems, and the account payables accounting system, as well as UiPath document understanding API has been used. Yes.
Any okay?
Yeah, no, there was a slight lag on the presentation. I hope you can see bank reconciliation. Rohan, can you confirm?
Yep, that is the one we see right now. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. So just going on to bank reconciliation process, this is where we are able to extract the data from the internet payment gateway and get the reports for the relevant banks. But there are times when the banks itself send these reports out to us. So then that is in either way we get the reports, and then after that we will download from the internal systems the reports from the different systems, and then we go and reconcile the transaction records of the bank and the internal. When we find mismatches, what we do is we create a balance sheet to tally the transactions, and we also send in the email notifications to the stakeholders. So basically, when we implemented this process for a financial institution and bank, what we noticed was we saved 400 working hours, and we optimized the process in time up to about 14.5 hours. No manual intervention in this process, and email alerts was sent during systems downtime, and the handling of about 90 payments per day. So these applications, we got when we are doing the automation, we had these particular applications getting involved. So we had the public banking sites, we have internal systems, we had PDF files, text files, Outlook, and Excel documents, coming into play when we were developing this process. So this is a very interesting, innovative use case, which I would like to share. And also I would like to do a demo of this after I finish my presentation so that you can get a clear idea of what we're talking about when it comes to RPA. So this is the campaign artwork creation. So this is basically for a retail store. And what we have done is because from the data models, right, they're able to identify what promotions that needs to be pushed. So they identified it from the data models, and also they also identify the channels that it needs to be channeled through. So taking this data, right, what we have done is we filter the formats and we convert them as individual promotions. And then we access the artwork templates and product images, and then we generate the artwork. So basically, if you can see, there are 500 artworks that is being generated per day, per week. Right? So we saved a lot of money by doing this. And then because of the fact that a lot of money was spent on agencies to create the artwork in the first place. Then we went into, after this artwork was created, it goes into the CRM system and the sales team is able to look at it and approve it. Once the approvals are done, we push it into the relevant channels. So it can be a SMS gateway, it can be integrated with the SMS gateway, with Viber, with Facebook, and SMS and MMS. So those are the channels that we have used. And then they are able to track the status of the campaign, whether the emails were read and all that, and then see the efficiency of the promotion. So those are the steps that they perform after the automation is done. So this use case is basically for credit flow. And since, this is more like quite similar, but I would like to say that in this particular use case, we used ABI for extracting data, invoice data, and that is an OCR tool to scan the documents and extract, and then we fetch the data and update it into the system, and there onwards we were able to create the loans, authorize the loans. There were several approval levels, and then we were able to manage that operation. So now talking about all the use case, the possibilities, let's look at, these are some of the, we call these heat maps, which has been generated by UiPath, right? And this talks about what are the areas that you could implement automation and which has high potential. Like, so when you look at finance and accounting, order to cash, right, you can see the dark blue ones are highly automatable use cases. Then when you look at the light blue ones, they are the medium. And when you look at the gray ones, they're the low. So when you look at this whole thing, if I just take you through customer setup and contract, so creating and updating the product master is a highly automatable use case. And setting up master in the system, setting up the customer in the system, managing the customer data, and creating and managing reports. So those processes are highly automatable. So if I go into process and fulfill order, processing orders, managing shipping and inventory, process returns and exchange, create and manage reports. So these are highly automatable. So likewise, we have even in the other areas, which gives a direction to the users. Okay, these are highly automatable. So this is finance and accounting, record to report, procure to pay and supply chain, right? So this is in-house legal department. You can see the dark blue ones. Then this is product and service development to customer support, right? And this is co-insurance. And this is human resource. So you can see there are quite a many use cases that is easily automatable, which you can give you benefits. So now how do we help clients in this whole journey of automation? How do we take them through? So this is what we call an 8-step process. So what we do is when we engage with clients, first is that we make them aware of what robotic process automation is all about. And after doing so, we also walk them through and help them to identify the processes that are easily automatable and which has a higher ROI. So in that process identification, we also going to process assessment, helping them to calculate the ROI by collecting the data that is relevant for that calculation. Then we also go into process redesigning if it needs to be redesigned so that you can get the benefits of our automation better and streamlining them. Also, we create the PDD, what we call is the document which details the workflows, their steps, the actions that needs to be taken and which needs to be coded. Then we're going to use the definitions and development and into UAT. UAT is where the customer is able to run through the automated bots and verify whether it works as if the human being was working on it. Then we go into the hypercare period is where we will fine tune what the work that we have done and ensure that there is more efficiencies, and then the customer can sign with us on operational support where we'll support the bot environment, the bots, and ensure that they keep working as appropriate. So this is the structure for the Center of Excellence. So the clients that wish, generally most of the clients will start a journey with doing automation for 1 or 2, 3 processes, but a major client will also look at where at an organization level, right, how would they want to take automation. So this is a structure we have for when we want to implement such a model. So which has a operating model, which has talent management and innovations and knowledge management, vendor and contract management. So all these are the framework for the COE, and all the automation requests flows into the COE. From there, the assessments are done and budgets are identified, and then after that it gets channeled in. After it's developed, it gets channeled into the respective areas, and if there's anything common, then it is being shared by the organization, the business units within the organization, giving the benefit to everybody. Yeah. Yeah. So
you have a couple more minutes and we can.
Okay. Sure. So these are the hosting options available for RPA. So you can implement on premise or you can implement on cloud, and cloud options are UiPath Cloud and Microsoft Azure Cloud. And this is the architecture we have for Microsoft Azure. So basically, let me go into the demo from here.
Eleni, right now we are seeing a blank screen.
Yeah, just give me a second.
Sure.
Let me stop sharing and share it again.
Yeah. So in the meantime, I think we have about 100 people who are here. Thank you so much for joining the Robotic Process Automation, driving towards a new transformation in the enterprise. We have just finished all of our presentations. We are about to start a Q&A with our esteemed panelists from UiPath, Metrofile Vision, and JKIT. Before that, I think Dilini has a demo that she would just like to play and show us about an actual case being done. Dilini,
so,
we
Rohan,
can see your.
You can see the screen, right? Okay.
Yep, you can see your screen. Go ahead.
So this is a quick demo of how the artwork use case was done. So basically, it goes and accesses the configuration file to know how to position the images and likewise. So that data is in Excel.
Sorry, Dilini, we are not seeing it. We are just seeing the folder with only the 4 files inside. We are not seeing it. Why don't we do this? I'll do a quick round of questions and come back to you.
Sure.
All right, Leno, you have been silently waiting, Leno, and no longer. I want to just get you on the screen and ask you couple of interesting questions, and wanted to just take this forward. And so I think, Leno, thank you again for the time, and for the ones who probably didn't catch it, she's the country sales director for UiPath South Africa. It's really phenomenal to have her joining us today. So Leno, one of the first questions I wanted to ask you is the fact that, UiPath today is like the fastest growing software company. We mentioned that before. How is the strategy for a market like South Africa while we are here as John Kills IT? I think the access to customers and everything is with people like Kudzai and you actually who are driving these markets. What is your take? How ready, how ripe is the market for automation for a company like UiPath?
Well, thank you for the question. I think we've seen very similar trends to the rest of the globe. Potentially, maybe generically, maybe 1 year at best behind. But what we find, South Africa tends to be quite an innovative type of environment. If I look at financial services back in the day, we were kind of one of the first to start using ATMs, and we're seeing more and more customers now starting to after having exactly what Delaney said, they've started with the 1 or 2 processes to get to understand what automation is about, and very quickly have moved into the thinking, hang on a minute, this is not about just taking a current process and speeding it up. Yes, that's helpful and useful, but like the artwork example, it's like, what is the art of the possible? And we're starting, and I think this is really where COVID has almost helped, is because, people are thinking differently. It's kind of moved our cheese. We've got more executives asking the question, what can we do differently? And the question I usually pose is the one I mentioned earlier. If you had 10 experts that you could apply to your business that could work 24/7 with absolute accuracy, never get sick, never take leave, and you could do something fundamentally new in your business, what would you do? And we're starting to see that shift. So that's the one shift. The other shift we're starting to see is organizations really looking at automation from a platform enterprise perspective. So moving away from just that invoice processing into accounts payable solution, that's kind of what's been done the last couple of years. But now saying, let's get departmental activity driven. So there is an owner with activity in each department to drive enterprise-wide. And the next one is starting to have a look at now getting the business user creating their own automations and creating the citizen developer, so that you can now start automating your own activities and drive that from what we call the bottom up, or the long tail of automations within an organization. So we're seeing a combination of all 3 of those now starting to bubble up off the foundation of that initial first couple of processes.
Oh, thanks, Laura. I mean, I think that's a really, really interesting kind of a description about how you are seeing the market. That's quite an interesting take. Lenore, I will just would like to move to Kudzai for you, maybe. So, Lenore, as a principal, as UiPath sees the market differently, I believe you are being one of those people who probably have hands and feet touching the ground at the ground level. What would you like to say about, especially first of all, maybe a bit of a recap to what Lenore said as the first point, and second of all, how are you as an organization enabling the businesses? Especially everybody wants to hold on to their budgets. IT, I think, is probably a much more better place today. And also, how do you see automation is really driving the business during this era, and looking forward to it, looking forward to the future?
Thanks, Rohan. So it's actually what we are finding is that customers are actually coming to us and asking for help. So it's really a two-way conversation. It's not a situation whereby we are always kind of knocking on the customers' doors and kind of introducing ourselves and saying, we can help you this or that way. They're actually coming to us and they're saying, guys, we're actually struggling because, we're caught on the wrong side of history here. We can no longer use physical records and documents to manage our processes. So how do we go paperless? So we're saying to them, of course, we can help you to go paperless. We've been helping you with your paper for all these years, and we believe we are well placed to help you go paperless. So that's one thing that we are actually, the conversation we're having with our customers very effectively. A lot of them are saying, look, our costs are, simply we just have to cut costs. I mean, the reality of the matter is a lot of these customers are just looking at their cost lines and saying, look at that line, cut it down, look at that one, cut it down. So the people that are responsible for these lines of business, they are the ones who are now struggling because, you can imagine if you had a department with 20 people, suddenly you are told it's now 11 people. So how do you still maintain the service that you need to give to your business when now you've got 11 people? So that's really how we're doing it from that perspective. We are working with real people who are facing real challenges, and we are helping them to meet their own objectives in their businesses. And RPA really comes in because it gives us an opportunity to help them with the lowest disruption possible in terms of their existing environments. And in some cases, it's fairly quick to implement and to show value. So again, it lends itself very well to this situation that we are in at this particular point in time.
Good, sir. I think you're very interesting. You said, like, customers are coming to you, because I think being an IT company, this is exactly what we all want to hear. It's a great place to be in, where the customers are knocking on the door and asking, hey, can we talk to you guys? Because we have some stuff we need help with, type of thing. So I'm glad to hear Metrofile is in that a good problem to have type of situation where you are now choking with your bandwidth probably. Dilini, I'm coming to you because I know that we really couldn't finish the demo. Are you okay with that? Can we do that now? Shall we just finish it up? Yeah, because I think for everyone who's listening to this webinar, I think we spoke about some really interesting topics so far. Again, your Q&A is open. I am seeing that there are a few questions coming our way. I'll be taking those questions probably a little bit in a couple of minutes time. Dilini, I'm just gonna kind of put it live, and I will just tell you, maybe go ahead for you to play the demo and talk us through this. Dilini, you are on screen. Why don't you play the demo and let's talk everyone through this.
So here, it's accessing the file which has the configurations in order to show how you want to show the image, even if you want where you want to position. This is the data model, which has the relevant promotions that we want to push, right? So
all of this is done by the RPA.
Yes. So now you can see it's extracting the images. It will extract the images, product images. Yeah. And it will position the way it should be.
Well, they say there's something called seeing is believing, and I'm a believer now for sure.
That's the reason I want to show it.
Really, really good stuff. So is this live right now, Dilini, in a customer location?
It's on UAT, and it will soon go live. Yeah, it's nearly completed UAT actually.
This kind of opens up the mind for people, where a lot of times people actually didn't think that for the creative area cannot be automated, right? I think it's kind of setting a bit of a element of interesting, yeah.
And you can see that it extracts the price, and then it also saves how much you're saving on it.
Interesting.
So it's done, and now it will show you. Okay, it's taking a close up to show you like what the information it has got.
I mean, I have worked in Photoshop for a while in my previous lives, and I probably cannot execute it this fast. So it's really, really great. I mean, thank you for sharing that demo with us, Dilini. And I mean, I just want to start moving forward with our Q&A again, and maybe I'll just, Leno, maybe let's just come back to you. There's something, I mean, it's all great, and this is all happening, and this is all at the moment is is real life stuff, and there's so much of proof in the pudding. But let me ask you this question. I mean, to your understanding, what is really been the barrier, or what had been preventing customers from this in a much more? Why are you not growing faster than you are? I mean, don't get me wrong. I think you as a company growing fast enough, but why are you not growing faster than this?
So thanks for that question. You're right. You never grow fast enough, but I think that the hurdles, there are a couple of them.
Right.
The first thing is getting engagement across the organization, and that is very important, because what we often find is customers will start with that first process, the first two processes, whatever, and then they stall.
Right.
And the reason they stall is because it hasn't got the right level of understanding across the organization. So that takes, first of all, executive engagement. This is an initiative that gets driven from the C-suite, because it is a fundamental transformational change to the business. It is digital transformation at its core. It is not doing business the way we did it before. So, and that's not talking technology. That is talking about a strategy shift. It is talking about a human shift and how your employees work. And then there is also this perception from staff that the robots are going to come and take my job. This issue of jobs, and I guess every industrial every revolution we've had, when there's been progress, there's always been fear of the impact it's going to have on jobs. But in fact, what we're seeing is, I think it's the third most sought after job on LinkedIn today is actually an RPA developer. And what's more, you can go and get the training online free of charge. It's not like it was, back in the day where you had to go and pay expensive university fees to learn a new skill. So it's about getting people on board to understand this shift, that this is a shift and it's a positive shift to actually make our lives better. So that executive engagement's important, understanding the human and the human interpretation and understanding of this. So I'll give you a very good example. We have a highly technical, logically driven customer with a particular executive who was literally stonewalling some of the automation initiatives in his department. Now, I've known this executive for 20 years because I've been in the market for a long time, and I know he is very supportive of technology. So I knew this couldn't possibly be technology. After a long discussion and some time over some alcohol, it actually came out that the real fear he had was not actually the robot, it was actually how he was measured. So in other words, to be an executive in an organization, you have to have so many people below you. And if they automated a part of his business, the chances are he would lose one of his reportees, which means that his status was at risk. It had nothing to do with the technology. So I'm sharing that as an example because anybody involved in HR out there and this, all the C-suite people, this is not just about technology. This is about rethinking fundamentally how you align your business, how you take the people there, and how you incentivize business. Once we pick that up, this customer has now given every executive an automation KPI as part of their KPIs and requirements as managing executives. And it shifted that whole move. So, I mean, that's just, one of the examples. So it's important to understand what resistance is coming from the people, because it's very much about people. It's a different technology. It's a different way of bringing things in. And that's why we say engage everybody early. The sooner you can get everybody in the organization to put their hands up and say, I have an automation idea, and then create some gamification around it. You know, recognize people for coming up with some of the best ideas in the organization. We have a technology for that called Automation Hub, which is an online portal where literally every employee can put forward their ideas. The benefit of the COE, which Delaney spoke about, is it now provides a pipeline of automation opportunities to the COE so that you make sure you qualify your automation ideas, which are going to have the best impact to the business. So it's a top down and a bottom up. And when you get that right, it starts to run.
Excellent. I mean, I think, thank you so much for that explanation. I think I completely agree with that particular point you mentioned about a lot of people have this fear that, okay, this new technology is going to take away our jobs, but what it does is it's kind of reimagine a future in a ways that creates so much more opportunities for people to kind of uplift their livelihood and even their status. Let me come to you for a question. I think, you know, that is Lenore's point of view from UiPath and the way they see the world, but someone who speaks to customers, I'm not saying Lenore doesn't, but I'm sure you are, you know, customers knocking on the door and having so many conversations with you. I mean, some of the challenges that Lenore made, do you kind of relate to them as seeing that you are constantly seeing from the customers coming back and saying when you talk about any kind of automation or even forget RPA, even just automation in general? And also, I just wanted to ask you, I mean, how does Metrofile is really geared in catering and asking for this? Because we currently have about 100 kind of an audience today, and you know, there could be people who are just interested in to find out how does Metrofile really enables them. Would you mind just maybe giving a quick overview on that?
Sure, thanks, Ron. So I think I agree with some of the points that Leonor mentioned, but I also think that we as people who are leading this conversation kind of have to be prepared for a bit of a pushback, in the sense that a lot of customers can't make the linkage between the terms and the terminology that we use and the real stuff that they need to do. So that's what we try and do, demystify it, so to speak, because I think it can be a bit of a mystery, you know, when you're talking automation and all that, people just have a picture of them losing control and then this thing is just doing this thing on its own. Yeah. Actually, it's to Leonor's point, it's actually very personal, in the sense that it actually helps you fulfill your KPIs or your objectives. So we kind of spend our time with the customers trying to show them to the point that, you know, I think the example she gave, how does it actually help you fulfill your own personal objectives in business? Right. And take away the terminology and bring it to your particular setup. You know, a mining company that needs to process leave requests for 1,000 employees that may turn up, or the mining company is probably 5,000-6,000 employees at a particular shaft, and 300-400 of them can turn up at the admin office to apply for leave because they don't have access to computers, right? So how do we help the employee to get back to work as soon as possible, right? So the mining company wants the employee to be productive. If they spend 2 hours applying for their leave, it's lost time, right? So we want to bring that context into saying, okay, we're actually helping you to reduce your lost time, right? So to the employee, we're saying, we don't want you to spend too much time at the admin office. You know, you turn up there and the process goes faster. The underlying technology, we now kind of work that out because we know what's enabling us to do that. So that's because this is a change management, this is a change process, it brings about change. You kind of want to make it as close to the way they speak and think and process information as possible. That's what we try and do. And our engagement is really, you know, we've got account teams, you know, our sales team that engage with the customers on one-to-one basis. So, you know, if a customer really needs help in a specific area where they're struggling with processes that are, you know, kind of overwhelming them, or where they know that they need to improve, you know, we definitely can respond to that, engage with them, on a one-to-one basis. We then identify, we follow the same process that Delaney was talking about in terms of actually seeing how the process can be automated, or if it's a fit for an automation engagement. And then we really take a practical approach to it. We help them to bite it in an appropriate way, but at the same time, we continue to engage. So again, to the point, just to add to Leonard's point, okay, yes, customers can sometimes do one thing and then stop, but our job is to go into the customer and say, you know what, now that we've done this with you, let's talk to your procurement people. They need to sort out their contracts. Let's talk to your people who deal with your products, because your master data is all over the show. Let's talk to your people who deal with customers and see how we can help them to respond to customers faster and make sure the customer information is more accurate. So that's kind of how we look at it in terms, we have a continuous engagement in our customers, always looking for ways in which we can help them. Then that process becomes a bit symbiotic in that the customer then comes back and says, oh, by the way, actually, I have a problem in my logistics space. Can you also help me in that area as well?
Excellent. Thanks, Kudzai. I mean, excellent answer. Lovely. So I think we are at the kind of last stretch of our webinar. I mean, of course, time flies when you're having fun. I think there's an interesting question from Fatima. I apologize for reading out the name, but hopefully it's not a very unique name. So they have asked a question about what is ABI and LOS. Delaney, I just wanted to quickly ask that question because I know for a fact that you heard these names before, and maybe you can just give an overview of what it is, and it is from an audience question as well. Delaney? Yeah, Delaney, I think you're on mute. Awesome, we can hear you now.
Yeah, so ABI is a OCR tool, right? So which helps you to extract the data. It also has the ability of being able to, ML capability is built into the tool so that you're able to train it, and then it is able to identify if there are issues that you rectify in the first one, then the next one it can train itself and give you a better feedback. So it gives you the confidence level, just like I was talking about the UiPath tool, UiPath API. So this also gives the confidence level. So we just, in one particular project, we tried using ABI because it has a lot of extractions and a lot of handwritten documents and all that. So we want to see and how well, whether the accuracy level will be high. So that's when we used it. And LOS stands for the Loan Application System, yeah, of the client's environment.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Delaney. So thank you, panelists, for being with me. It's almost been about 1 hour. We probably want to have a couple of questions, and we probably will. I'll ask for the closing remarks from you all. Thank you for the attendance. We haven't really had a major drop. I mean, we probably have a little less than 100 now in our attendance at the moment. So I hope you'll find it useful. Again, reach out, ask the questions, because you probably will really find this amount of years of experience in driving transformation using technology in businesses in a single panel any given day. So, maybe we can just come for the last question, and maybe I'd like to hear your closing remarks as well. Well, the future. I'll be honest. Some time ago, when I heard about UiPath, I've been told is that maybe 3 years, 4 years, and after that it will just not be as relevant. I apologize for being so blunt about this question, but I hope I think it will be an interesting question that a lot of people are also thinking about as well, that they must have heard, rightly or wrongly. So how do you really see UiPath driving this automation over the next 3 to 4 years, and how do you see the future for your organization? And adoption is certainly have been accelerated as a result of pandemic. What are your thoughts?
So thank you for actually posing that question. I joined UiPath now just short of 2 years ago. Right. And I have to say, many of my colleagues and even work colleagues said, "You are who?" We weren't really well known in the market at all. I think probably Kudzai at that stage we had a conversation around this, and you were probably one of those also wondering on you are who. And that was in what I call the era of pure RPA, where we're really talking about automating a single process. And I don't think the market then saw the vision of moving towards what, as I say, Gartner has coined the phrase now, hyper-automation. And in fact, even Gartner came out with the first RPA Magic Quadrant in July last year. It was only a year ago. And, you know, beginning of last year, we had a market cap of 3 billion. And we'd only reached unicorn status the year before, 1 billion, and now in August we've reached just over 10 billion. So that's definitely not a technology that's going away. And I think, as I showed in the flywheel of the technology that we have, it's about providing a broad platform now to really bring together the systems that are in play. So no ERP system does everything for a transaction from end to end for every organization. No CRM system does everything for a customer experience from end to end. And probably you need both of them in order to bring that experience. And then you've got your email, as Delaney spoke about, where you need to pick up the email and bring all the system information together. So if anything, because of the platform, we're seeing, this is why we are seeing the massive growth. The other thing is it applies to every single industry across the globe. There is not an industry that doesn't have a use case for this. And then there's not a business area within a particular organization where you won't find a use case. I find a use case every day. And I think as more and more people start already understanding what it's about from the organizations they work with, you're also going to find more and more people starting to use automation in your own personal capacity because you see the benefits. And that's really where our online training and our academy in driving, you know, the democratization, if you will, of RPA. Our CEO is a great believer in the democratization of RPA, making it accessible to everybody. We have a program, for example, of a robot for every student. So we have an education alliance program for educational bodies. So I know we've got a big South African audience. So universities like KZN, Pretoria, you know, will ring bells, have all signed up and starting to bring this into their education programs. But as well as we start talking about professional bodies, like I'm a member of the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants. Now your professional bodies can start bringing this in for your CPD, so that it now should be base training for everybody in the business environment, so that we are talking about the democratization of this technology, and hence why I aligned it very much to my experience of a spreadsheet. I stand up in front of a millennial audience and I explain to them that I did articles and I was still using sort of 15-column analysis paper, and they laugh at me. You know, that's how it's moved in my life, and we will see this moving. That your new joiners to organizations from university are going to get their laptop and they're going to say, okay, where's my login for my robot? And you say, well, you don't have a digital assistant. So you mean you want me to do all that work? You got to be crazy. So we're very quickly going to get to, you know, that space. So. It's the shift in such a short space of time has been absolutely massive, and this idea of the robot for every person is also not out there. We have many organizations across the globe that are applying this today already. PwC are applying it as an article clerk. You are KPI'd now to do a certain amount of your work through your digital assistant instead of that mundane work as a highly trained person. Ericsson, there are a number of them. So I think this is just the tip of the iceberg, quite frankly, and really excited to be part of this.
Amazing, great answer. I was actually reading about something last week, and I saw a number of countries that have specified and said they have about, like, I think in South Korea, there's about 5 robots per every 100 people and growing, 3 robots in US, and in every country, there's a number of people to robots ratio is increasing. So I think it's definitely something that is really worthwhile thinking. It's I think future cannot be ignored in any way. It's just gonna kind of come over you and take over you. Kudzai, I'm gonna come to you. Just wanted to ask you, It's about, today the era of, design thinking, digital transformation or business transformation journey. All the customers are talking about it. I think it's fair to say that automation or robotic process plays a very significant role in that particular piece of it. Where do you think, in your mind, this entire piece fits in? I know that I'm asking for a little bit more specific answers from you maybe here, and what is the role that Metrofile is really playing in the entire landscape of transformation and connecting RPA into that? What are your personal thoughts as well about it?
Yeah, so I think one of the key things is that the challenge of the business having to deal with what we call asynchronous processes is not a new challenge. These processes are happening independently of each other, but somewhere along the line they have to be linked so that business can be done, right? Yeah. And so the challenge we've always faced is that we've never had something that could do it as well as or close to what a human being does, right? And I think in the past it has been done in different ways. I know the days of jobs that were run on the shell scripts on machines and so on, or in the SAP world, BW process chains. I mean, you guys would know that stuff, right? Yeah. And how it all happened. But I think now we have tools that can actually mimic a human being. So that gives us a platform to solve some of these asynchronous processes much more effectively. So automation unlocks value, so, and it can do it fairly quickly. So the thing is that when organizations think of their digital transformation, they should really think about automation first, because it is trying to solve the problem that we've been trying to solve, to replace some human intervention in some areas where we don't need it. So I think that's the key thing. Think about automation as an answer that we've been waiting for a very long time, because now we've got tools that can do it for us. But I think it also has to be in context, right? Because businesses are running, they're doing what they need to do, and we can actually help the business to contextualize it. That's what Metrofile is trying to do. Contextualize, make sure you see the value, hold your hand so that your change management process doesn't overwhelm you, so that you don't give up at the slightest hurdle that comes your way, and also so that you can continue to look for opportunities to automate, different areas. And I think that's really kind of some of the key things around that. And also, we've also a lot of experience in the process space. So we are also proactively looking at those processes that we've been assisting our customers with, and saying, oh, actually, there's an opportunity here for us to assist the customer in a different way. So we are going back to the customers that we've helped in the past and saying to them, hey, you know what we did with you that time? There's actually a better way of doing it. And by the way, if you do it this way, you're gonna potentially reduce your costs, you're potentially gonna increase your efficiencies and so on. So we are really enjoying that. And I must tell you, we've had several conversations with our customers. In almost every instance, the customers are coming back to say, you know what, we want to know more. Let's actually go more into a specific scenario and assist you with that. So that's where we are, and I believe that we are just at the beginning phase of this journey, as Leonor has pointed out. Right. We're going to see many more innovations which are going to be driven by the RPA and automation in the automation space. Because it's going to give the ability to interact with people in a different way and to fulfill processes much more effectively and faster, and actually bring in a level of confidence. Because if stuff is being done more accurately, more efficiently, it tends to build confidence. If you are opening a bank account with a bank, and it takes you 2 hours to do it, where in the past it was taking a week, surely the bank must be doing something right? So I'm more confident in my bank because I can open an account in 2 hours, that type of thing. So those are the things that how we think about it and how this space is going to change as we move forward.
Thanks a lot. I mean, there are a couple of things that are really, really critical that you mentioned. One is about the context. The other one is the currency is trust and credibility. I mean, which is phenomenally important for any business in any shape or form. So thanks a lot for those inputs. So I want to just come to Dilini for a very important question. I know that you have quite a lot of experience in, doing these projects, and I think, from a technology standpoint. So would it be possible for you to kind of give us quite a bit of a kind of overview and maybe explain the project delivery of RPA project from a time a customer said, hey, you know what, I'm kind of liking this, maybe this is something I want to go ahead. And also, what do you think the customers should be preparing themselves for and be ready with in order for them to have a successful project going forward? And also maybe summarize what we have done from a certification standpoint to give that customer that trust and credibility that I think Kudzai also mentioned about. We have run a little past time, but I think the conversation have been really meaningful. So I would like to kind of have this answer from you, Dilini, and maybe we can do a closing remark and wrap this webinar for today.
Thank you, Rahan, for the question. And yes, just to answer that question, in terms of the project delivery, how we do it, how we approach it, is like this. So at the initial start, what we like to do is that we like to make people understand what RPA is about, right? Because the awareness that we give to everybody in the organization will help them to get on board fast. So that is the approach that we take. We take them through the awareness sessions. Then also then we help them in their discovery sessions, as I explained, to explore, to understand what processes can be automated and to identify those, right? So that is one. Then after that, when we have done a high level understanding, then it is into where the proposals, the contracting and all that. Once that is through, it is about kicking off a project. So there you will understand, we will say how long it would take to automate each process and what are the commitments that is required from the customer end, because at different times we will need the customer in terms of getting the process design document signed off, right, where they will say that this is the process that they want automated and these are the steps. Then in going into stages of when it comes to UAT, they need to be engaged to test the process, right? And likewise, there are so many interactions that we will have with the customer. So in that sense, they need to be made available and they need to be able to give that input to make it a success. So once those UAT stages are passed, then it is about going live. So having the environment to go live and the acceptance of everybody to push that into live and see it in live action. So basically throughout the process, we have project management practice, which will look after the process, will look after the delivery, will communicate to the clients where they are in the status of the project and likewise. Yes, right. So that is.
Sorry, go ahead, Dilini.
Yeah, so that is basically covering on project management and also looking at the capabilities that you asked me. It is we have capable resources, we keep training them, we keep training them on UI, because it is very easy. The tool UiPath platform itself has the required training available, so we keep training up people. We keep adding to the consultants that we have in-house so that they are trained well, and also we expose them into the John Keel's IT projects so that they have hands-on experience. Then we also have mentoring programs where a senior is mentoring a junior sort of thing, so that when they go into the live project, they are also guided with a senior resource on the project.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Dilini. I really appreciate it. I think we are almost out of time, and usually I'm a little bit strict about timing and all of that, but I think the conversation was really interesting, and we seems to be getting a lot of interesting questions to the latter part. So I think I thank you, Kudzai. I know that you have picked up a question. For all those who are watching, a lot of you probably don't know is that we also live streamed on Facebook. We got a series of questions on Facebook as well, and if you can identify who you are, we will send you a DM to some of the answers, some of the questions you have raised, because we're just about running out of time. There's a very interesting long question that have been picked up by, if you don't mind me saying this, a gentleman called Imtiaz, and I think it's a long question, so I think you got a response from Kudzai kindly reach out and maybe he can provide the direct answer to you. Dear panelists, it's been an absolute exciting and very informative session. What I would like to do is to maybe ask you to do a quick 1 minute and do a recap, and then we probably can wrap up the session for today. And yep, Lenore, can I just ask you to be the first on wrapping up?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to repeat, if you hate it, automate it. It's a really good way to identify processes that need to be automated, and reach out to Kudzai at Metrofile, because they'll get you up and running. And just to emphasize, this can be done at speed. You can literally get a process up and running in a matter of weeks. We are not talking a long-term thing here. So get going. If you hate it, automate it.
I'm just gonna so copy that line. It's so good. So I think Kudzai, over to you for a quick 1 minute wrap up, closing remarks.
Thanks a lot. I think there was a question which was asked about what are the risks of automation. Yeah. So perhaps I think we can obviously have a detailed conversation, but I really think that the risks are around if you do not follow best practice in approaching your automation project, then you are likely to find yourself, in the higher risk area. And I think Delaney shared the sort of low-hanging fruit, where the processes that are more sort of the higher success possibility processes that are suitable for automation. So we can definitely assist in terms of mitigating or addressing the risks. I think I'll just add one a little addition to Leonor's tagline. I would say, if you hate doing it, automate it. You might love it. You might love what it does, but actually you hate doing it. So automate it.
Delaney, 1 minute recap for you for closing.
Thank you, Rohan. Thank you, Kudzai, and thank you, Leno, for joining the webinar. I mean, it has been a wonderful session, and thank you for the audience for being with us. I hope you heard, you understood what we're trying to say, and it has been inspirational for you. And following up on what Kudzai said about the risk, I would also like to say, if you don't choose the right partner to do your automation, you're not going to achieve anything. So make sure you select the right partner in the process.
I like it. Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you for my dear panelists. It's been amazing, and so I had so much fun hosting you guys and having this conversation. So really appreciate your time. A lot of your executive time had been invested preparing as well as for today. I'm really excited for everyone who is there. We have about 80 people still in this session. Almost 1.5 hours. We have completed the session. Kindly reach out to Metrofile for any requirement, and we are UiPath and JKIT are definitely partners here to work with Metrofile to make sure that you are successful, and in return we also can kind of achieve something great together. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, and all the best to you. Once again, stay safe and look out for any of the other webinars that we'll be doing with Metrofile in time to come, and also with UiPath, hopefully, and take the conversation forward. Thank you so much. Have a great evening, night, wherever you are, and have a great rest of the day if you are in the morning hours. Thank you so much.